Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Hero Arts. So I wasn't sure what I was going to use for my sentiments, so I actually pulled out the holiday messages and the everyday messages. I didn't end up using them. I ended up just using the Grateful Word dies, but those would be great as kind of like a sub-sentiment. I also use the Daffodil Fancy Dies, the Tea Kettle Fancy Dies, and then for my stencils, I'm going to be using these overlapping circles, and I know it's hard to see. This is the Delft Floral Layering Stencil, and we're going to be talking about incorporating patterns and textures into our designs successfully and how we can do that without distracting from our focal point, or how we can do that without creating something that's like crazy busy and seems very chaotic. So we're going to dive right into it because I got to wait for this to dry. So the first way that we can do that is by incorporating a pattern or a texture that is a tone on tone, or a pattern or a texture that is a neutral. So here I am using, this is just a little tip here, because see how they're, like my grip mat is holding it on the edges, but sometimes in the center, it's a little bit challenging. So just see kind of where your stencil is sticking up at, and then apply your paste in the other direction. This is the pearlescent paste, but something to note about this, mine is super dry because mine is old and I did not cover it with the, press and seal. So it still works, but it is thicker. Understand, if you bought yours, it would not be. So in order for this to have like an even edge, I'm just going to kind of wipe it with my finger. And then there were some areas that kind of pulled up when I removed my stencil. And so in order to fix those, I was kind of tapping it with my finger and seeing if I could, make sure everything was nice and flat. And then I had the idea to just use a secondary piece of cardstock to lay it over top and just kind of smooth it out. And that worked much better. I didn't apply a lot of pressure. I just worked to smooth it. Please understand, the only reason I had to do this is because mine is older and it wasn't covered. The regular, like when you first get the paste, it's not like that. Okay, so now another way that you, first of all, this is another way that you can even use your color layering stencils. But we're going to talk about that like monochromatic. So if you have a pattern that you really like, but you feel like maybe it's too busy or there's too much of it in order to, fit into the kind of the card idea that you have, try doing it in a monochromatic color scheme. And all that means is just using the same color. So again, this isn't going to be a tone on tone because my base is white, but it is creating that blue background. And so I started with a light blue, went to a mid blue, and then to a darker blue for my stencils. So while we're stenciling, let's talk about the sales. So basically everything is on sale at Hero Arts. Everything. This color layering stencil right here. Like, see, I got my other color ready and I forgot to swap out my stencils. Is like $9.50. The other one that what is it? The holiday messages, not the one with the dies, the one without, just the clear stamp by itself, is like $3. It's like $2.59 or $2.89 or something. So there's a lot of sales going on for Black Friday, and I believe these run through November 30th. They're calling it their Black Friday Frenzy sale, but they have machines on sale up to 70% off on their clearance section. They also have bundles. And so does their parent company. They were bought out at the beginning of the year by Spellbinders, and Spellbinders also has tons of sales going on also. Inks, stamps, dies, stencils, basically everything I used here today is on sale. So if you love their products, and I've been a Hero Arts girly from the very beginning, that was like some of the first stamps that I ever owned. Also tools. See these little clippers right here to cut your dies apart, which are super helpful because they have those little teeny tiny nippers that you can, get in between on sale. So Now, here we're going to move on to the next tip for incorporating maybe a busier pattern is to die cut out of it. So don't necessarily use the entirety of the pattern, just die cut a small part. So I'm going to use this stencil, this Delft floral stencil that we've used here. I'm going to use that to cut out a cup and my teapot. The whole chinoiserie. So that will, help. Also incorporate in solid colors. If you want to be fancy, like for me, I wanted my accessories to be a little fancier. So I'm cutting them out of gold. And actually that is Spellbinders gold. And so is the blue. These are all Spellbinders papers. The blue is Cosmic Sky. The yellow is Beeswax, I think. And the green is Peridot. And so I am going to cut out my die cuts out of colored cardstock and use those solid colors to kind of be supporting actors. So here I'm kind of messing around with the layout of my card so that I can figure out what exactly it is that I want to do. And I am going to add, the idea is I'm going to add in that texture and those other, the pattern elements that I love. And the other tip you can use is to put them in the background. So I'm going to use them as wallpaper. That's my intention. That's how I'm going to use them. Here, I apologize. I was coloring, just happy as can be, coloring, and for some reason my camera was not on. I don't know what happened there. Or my footage got eaten. Honestly, I made this card so long ago that I can't remember what happened, but I do know that I had to recolor it. So that's what I'm doing here. So what you see on there for the coloring, I am just recreating for you so that you can see. So in order to give this teapot some shape, we are going to add shading to the left and right hand side. We're also going to add a little bit of shading where the top of the teapot comes in, like where the neck of it is. And then also where the spout is. And we're doing this with gray markers, cool grays, because blue is a cool color. This one over here is the same die. I just cut off the spout on the right hand side. I shaded it the same way. And that is so I can use it as a vase. So yeah, don't be afraid to mix up your dies and get different shapes out of them. We're going to do that again here in a little bit. So the reason that I chose to do the cool grays on the stenciling is because that blue is a cool color, but also because it's mostly white. That white is in the background. So doing the shading with the grays isn't going to detract from my pattern. It's just going to enhance it and give it a little bit more dimension. Here, I wasn't sure if I was going to need a patterned cup or if that would be too busy or if I would need a solid cup. So I colored both of them. And then this is actually the handle part of the teapot. So I'm going to do the sides of it gold, and then the handle will be this blue that'll kind of play into the rest of the color scheme. For the daffodils, I chose to do them two different colors. I chose to do them white. That's the ones that you see me coloring here. So when we're coloring something white, we're only adding the shadows. And so I put down the C5 where I want it to be the darkest. And then I'm going to go over that with a C3 and just slightly extend it out. Same thing with the C1, but I am leaving a lot of white space in the rest of my petals. And then I'm just going to do the 3 layers of the petals the same way. I know the reason I'm adding the shading like closer to the center is because that's where the petals are going to meet the center. Obviously the center in this daffodil die is a separate piece, but all of those petals will meet each other in the center, and then that's where the shadows will be the darkest. So I did a little bit of Black Friday shopping myself. Hero Arts, or not Hero Arts, Honeybee. Honeybee's sale went live last night at midnight, and so I went over there and also picked up some things that I had on my list. Oh, the Spellbinders bundle. So we were just talking about this in a live recently. Somebody asked about good scissors. The Spellbinder scissors, the shears are excellent. I like the detail scissors too. But I got mine in a holiday bundle last year, and they have holiday bundles again this year. So that might be a good way to pick up, maybe some of those things that you would want to try. So for this center, I am coloring it a golden yellow. So this is going to go with my white daffodils. And this is another tip that you can use when incorporating your textures and your patterns to help them kind of work together seamlessly, is to use complementary colors. So now blue's natural complement is orange. And we're using like a golden yellow, and then also we will color the inside the flute of the yellow daffodils orange. So those will, all those colors will work really nicely together, and they will play nicely together. So we're not going to be adding anything else to kind of muddy up the mess. We're keeping a really limited color palette because we have the interest with the texture. We have the interest with the patterns. So here, this is how it'll look together, and you can see it's much easier for it to look white when you have other colors with it versus gray. I chose to do some yellow greens because honestly, I love a navy. I love a navy with like a lime green. I always have. And so I am adding that in as my greenery, and that is just going to stay the same across both of the cards. Okay, so we were talking about the holiday bundle and my own, like this is the time, like this Hero Art sale, like they have their infinity dies on sale. I think the circles are like $14, 13 something and some change. And like that's the time that I want to go in there and stack up on those things that are on my wish list that are typically I have a hard time with like purchasing because they are more expensive, because I'm a cheap chicken. We all know that. So here is when I decided to switch it over to the orange. And then I'm just doing the shading the same way. I'm adding those little triangles where the flute dips in. And then I am going over, those colors and extending that out with the orange. I think I originally thought I was going to color them all white, and that's why I colored all of them yellow. But then I switched up the orange, and you'll be able to see once in a minute here, I'll bring in the other one and put it next to it. So you can tell like the difference between the yellow and the orange. There is a distinct difference. And then we're going to color our yellow daffodils. But I didn't leave the whole thing in because we saw all, like, I'm going to do one. I'm not going to do all three of the layers because you just saw that. So yeah, so this is like the time of year, which I'm sure I'm not alone. I'm sure you guys are probably pretty similar. To just, getting in there and picking up those things that maybe you wouldn't normally get yourself, but now they're on sale and it's time. I will probably send out blogging is so hard for me. Do you guys read blogs? Please tell me your honest answer. I think blogs are pretty much just used for like a landing page anymore. And so I have a very hard time just like putting a picture and posting the links and not typing anything, because for years we had to type, all of the explanations before we were all doing videos. Back to our next tip. So if you have something like a paste that you want to use, which can be very challenging to die cut, you can always die cut beforehand and then add your paste. That's what I'm going to do here with my vase. But also you don't have to add the stencil to the whole thing. You can see I've positioned this where the top lip actually is not going to get any of the texture from the paste. I am just putting it on the bottom, the largest part. So you don't have to texturize everything. You could do just a small section, or, like we talked about before, you can die cut out of it, or in this case, do your die cutting and then add your texture. And then here that I'm going to use the same thing where like I kind of like just gently kind of push the edges, just so it doesn't harden and become like a hard edge that's hanging off of it. Just kind of gently kind of pushing it will clean up that edge. I also want that edge that I left to be clean. I want it to have a gold decoration so that everything is all matchy-matchy. You guys know how I am with the matchy-matchy. So I'm going to die cut it, but I'm only going to die cut a portion of it. And then I'm going to line this up in my trimmer. I'm going to hold it with a piece of tape there. And then that way, like once I have it straight, and then I'll put that tape down, and then I can hold the closure here. Like I can close it and then slide that so that I can get the thinnest little piece up here at the top. And then I'm actually going to do the next piece for my other teapot. I'm going to do it the same way. So what if you're like, Kelly, I don't have a bunch of stencils. I don't have any dollars. I don't, but I want to create my own texture. Hang tight. I'm going to show you how to do that too. So here, this is my little gold accent that's going to go on there. And then here is our little gold handle that will connect to it. Now, using our dies differently. So here, I want a little vase. And I don't want it to look the same as my other vase where I just cut off the spout. So I cut a part of the teapot, and then I am going to slide it over so that the right part will actually create a vase for me. I can change how wide the mouth is or how wide the body is by how much cardstock I cut and where I slide it. So this one is just going to be a single flower vase. So don't be afraid to like mess around and see what else you can get out of it. I do have a little bit of the spout there, but that's no big deal. I'll just go in with my scissors and trim that off. And now I have like just a single flower vase. For this, I am going to still shade it. I did a little shade, like a little shading underneath the top so that it would look like, you know, an edge, and then some darker shading like where the neck would be. And then after that, I'm just going to shade it like I did everything else. I'm going to add shading to the left and right hand side, and then I am going to blend that out to my lightest color. So as far as Thanksgiving goes, you guys know I typically do try to put up a video on Thanksgiving because I know not everybody has the opportunity to be with family or you know, their circumstances are different. Here, if you don't have a die and you don't have a stencil and you still want to create texture, this is the Spellbinders, their little trimming, cutting thing. Well, I can't think of it. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. But theirs also, it comes with a cutting blade, but it also comes with a scoring blade. So what I'm doing here is every like quarter of an inch, I'm scoring the paper, and it is creating like a beadboard look to it. And I'm going to do it on the white. I didn't end up using the white, but I did end up using the brown. But it's going to be like corrugated or look like beadboard. And you can just leave it like that. You don't have to add anything else to it. I am going to add a little extra to mine, but you certainly don't have to. And then this way, this is another tone-on-tone texture that we can create, but it doesn't require any other items. Why could I paper trimmer? Why could I not think of a paper trimmer? It's the Spellbinders paper trimmer. So I do still use my Fiskars because I like the wire guide, but I do also like the Spellbinders one because I like having the scoring thing in there as well. So I use them both. Here, I just marked the little line where the wallpaper would be coming down, and then I'm going to add some shading there. I'm going to also add some shading with my markers so that those beadboards, that wood paneling look that we've got going on here is a little bit accentuated. And then I showed you here, I would just shade it very lightly with a gray. I used granite, which is very light. If I was going to use the white, I'm not going to use it. Like I said, I ended up using the brown, but the white is an excellent option. Or like you could just use this as a fun like striped background. You don't even have to do a whole scene like I'm doing. I just like scenes. So I do typically try to put up a video, just in case you need some companionship and you are looking for somebody to spend your time with. As you guys know, this is the first year, the first Thanksgiving without my mom. I'm not going to candy coat it. Like, it sucks. It's not a great time. And I find myself like I'm a little less patient today, and I know it's just because I'm feeling some kind of way, which isn't anybody's fault. And I will try to make sure that I keep that in mind, dealing with everybody else in my family. Like if somebody feels like they're falling a little bit short or they need to be given some more grace, I really think all of us are going to need all the extra grace today. And I always knew I had a wonderful mother who did all of the things, and she was fantastic. But my mom would never wanted help with any. Well, I shouldn't say that. My mom never wanted you to bring anything. Like when I was previously married, my ex-husband's family, nobody made like the whole dinner. Everybody brought something. So like one sister would bring green beans, one sister would bring mashed potatoes, we would bring, dessert or something. They all worked together to create the meal. My mom never did that. Back to the card. So I did use some dry adhesive on the back of the one with the paste just to make sure that it was going to hold. And I add the liquid adhesive because that gives me a little bit of wiggle room to put it down before it is like dry. And this is going to be my tone on tone wallpaper up there with the texture. I've seen art pieces like that, where they do like this really like the overlapping circles or the arches. I think it's beautiful. And I think that it's a great way to add interest without really taking anything away from the focal point, is using kind of like those neutral colors. And then both of them got like a chair rail. That's what they used to call them back in the day. I mean, if they cut it in the middle of your wall was a chair rail. Do they still call them that? Or is it just trim? I don't know. I'm certainly not a home decorator. So let me know what you think it is. But anyway, so my mom always did everything, but we would typically go over there a bit earlier to help her with the things, help her make the things. And this year, me and my siblings trying to coordinate all of the things that my mother did on her own. I'm like, oh my gosh, how she had to have just been calling all of us all the time, being like, what are you doing? Who's doing what's going on? And so in like my professional life, before this was my profession, in my professional life, I was always the type of person who I did not want somebody to help me do my job because I knew that the thing got done because I did it myself. And I wish I could ask her because I'm highly suspicious now my mother was the same way. That my mom was the same way when it came to like making dinner. Like she knew that the stuffing, the potatoes, the sweet potatoes, the rolls, the pies, the whatever, like she knew it got done because she was the one who was doing all of it. And that's always how I felt about my radio channel. Like, don't be talking to my radio channel to my officers. Like, I know that it got done because I did it. I called for the tow, or I called the jail, or I called whatever. So I am very, very suspicious that maybe my mom was the same way. And that's actually why she wanted to just be the person who bought everything, so that she knew that all of it got done. So we're still all going to get it done. It was just a little bit more work for all of us to do the communicating and who's doing what and what we're making. And so after I was going to go down and put the ham in this morning. My mom never bought like a spiral cut ham. She always bought a different kind of ham. And so I had originally bought a spiral cut ham, and my sister was like, well, I picked up the kind of ham that mom bought, which I'm like, it's fine. I'm not precious about it. It's not going to hurt my feelings. I don't care. So my original game plan was to go down and put the ham in this morning, get the pies. The pies are there because I don't have enough freezer space for 6 pies. And then come home, make the other things that I'm making, which is stuffing and macaroni and cheese because my kids have to have something to eat. I'm kidding. Caitlin has to have something to eat. My peanut will now is now old enough that he'll eat the other things. Here I am, because I am doing a scene, I don't want my elements just floating in midair. So I am adding a little bit of a shadow underneath them. So here we can see how like that pattern is still, like both patterns are still very much working for us, but we have those resting spaces that, you know, because one of the patterns or one of the textures is a neutral, that gives us a restful place because we use the supporting like solid metallics, solid blue vase, that's giving us another place to kind of rest our eyes and allowing the pattern to still show, and our focal point, our little tea set with our floral, to still shine through, but it's not competing with each other, and we're still creating a really balanced design. So anywho, so then when I get done here, I baked the one pie that was left to bake. I baked before I laid Jelly Bean down for her nap. And now when I'm done doing my voiceover here, I'm going to go downstairs and I'm going to start making the mac and cheese. I was a little bit worried. I was like, oh man, is it like, should I make it at mom and dad's? Like, because, you know, mac and cheese doesn't reheat well. You got a trick for that. I'm open. And so my sister was like, just put it in a 9x13 and put it in the oven to keep it warm. I was like, that's brilliant. That's a good idea. So here, this was my original idea, was I was going to use the top floral piece as like the top wallpaper, just like I did with the last one, right? So I had the pattern up top and then the resting piece below. But do you see how this is competing? Those flowers are not popping. It's competing with the pattern. And we don't want it to compete with our focal point. We want it to support our focal point. So I'm going to flip it. And I'm going to put that part of the wallpaper on the bottom, which is then going to allow our focal point of the flowers. Now they're going to pop off of that, that cosmic blue. And the pattern that we created is going to be a nice supporting actor. The problem that we had was it was like the white on white, the white on the white and blue pattern. So the flowers were getting lost. So our focal point was not popping. Then doing the pattern with the vase and the pattern on the wallpaper, again, those are also not competing because we have the tone on tone texture, and then we have the neutral texture, and then the tone on tone, the monochromatic stencil. I'm also going to add a little bit of shadow underneath here because we don't want our little vase to be floating. So we made a teapot, which is what it was intended for, a tea kettle, and a small vase and a large vase out of that one die. I don't know about you, but I am a big fan of that. Big fan of using multiple dies. So I ended up choosing the Thankful and Blessed, how fitting for today, because I am very thankful for you guys and your support. I wouldn't be able to do this without you. And so I am very grateful to have you. And like now doing the lives and stuff and being able to like chit chat with you guys. I'm very grateful for those relationships. Thank you so very much. And so here I am doing the Thankful. I just mounted it on a white shadow and I'm going to do it right on the center of that vase. And then for the Blessed, I am going to stack up a couple of them. This one is a little bit more, I don't want to say fragile because that's not what I mean. It's a little daintier. So stacking a couple of them on top of each other is going to give it a little bit more weight. And then I am going to put a blue one behind it, slightly offset, just to the left, and that's going to create a shadow. Doing that is going to allow it to pop off both light and dark colors so that it's legible. So it's not going to get lost in that pattern on the kettle, and it's not going to get lost in the blue of the other vase. And then I'm going to connect kind of like the whole scene there in the bottom right and do the Blessed. And then all we have left is to do is the details. some shimmers, some white gel pen. You guys know how I roll. I was really happy with the way that they came out. Please let me know if this was helpful to you. I probably will type up a blog, whether you read it or not. I will type it up and then I will send it out also with a link. I'll link below the Crafty sales page. If you would like to support me in the content that I produce on this channel, please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and then if you're going to be doing any shopping my affiliate links is no additional cost to you, but is a huge help to me in continuing to do what I love. Thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. I wish you and yours a happy Thanksgiving, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.